fighter, like you. If you hurt her...
I'm not going to hurt her until you're here to see it.
Let's unmask this fucker.
All your friends died for just being near you.
Where is my daughter? Tatum, listen to me. He's trying to find another way in. We're gonna do this together. You're gonna have to shoot him through the wall. Where? To the right of the door. Shoot him now! Do it now! Oh, you got it. He's dead. You need to make sure you shoot him in the head.
I'm gonna burn it all down.
That's crazy. Hello, welcome.
This next theory is similar to the Ash coma theory, but less depressing. Essentially, it's another way to explain why Ash doesn't age. Ho-Oh's Diamond Pearl Platinum Dex entry says, its feathers are in 7 colors. It is said that anyone seeing it is promised eternal happiness. Eternal happiness is what matters here. What would make Ash happy? Adventuring with and battling Pokemon. How do you do that eternally? Stop him from aging. In short, Ash made a wish on Ho-Oh. It is certainly less depressing than the coma theory and therefore has more merit, but I'm still calling it nonsense. I can't help but think of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most likely one, and the simplest answer is that Ash just didn't age because they wanted a weekly episodic series as opposed to a single enclosed story, so they could maintain continual interest and print money, which they did for over 25 years. This next theory focuses on the mythical Pokemon Genesect. Genesect was an ancient bug Pokemon that Team Plasma revived and modified, outfitting it with metal armor and a pretty sick cannon. But Genesect is this new Pokemon's name. What was it before? What was the prehistoric Pokemon that became Genesect? It could be one that we've never seen and never will, or it could be a Pokemon that we're already familiar with. This theory claims that Genesect was a Kabutops. There are 3 data points to support this, and then 1 potential hang-up. First, they have similar body shapes, with any subtle differences explained by the technical modifications. Second, Genesect was feared as the strongest of hunters, and most of Kabutops' dex entries talk about its vicious hunting. Third, Genesect is said to have existed 300 million years ago, and while none of Kabutops' entries say exactly when it lived, several of Kabuto's specifically say it lived 300 million years ago. They look alike, behave alike, and lived at the same time. But the hang-up is that Kabutops is not a bug type, and Genesect is explicitly stated to be an ancient bug Pokemon. Yeah. But there is an explanation for this. Until Gen 8, fossil Pokemon were always rock type. But for many, this seems to be because they were revived from a fossil, not because they have any rocky attributes. Like, look at Archeops. What about this has anything to do with rocks? So Kabuto and Kabutops could be rock type today just because they were revived from fossils, and then water type because they're aquatic. But 300 million years ago, they could have been water bug type because of Anorith and Armaldo. These prehistoric bug type Pokemon are based on the Anomalocaris, a prehistoric arthropod. Kabuto is based on trilobites and horseshoe crabs, and Kabutops is based on Europterids. All 3 of what I just mentioned are arthropods, as are crabs, and Dwebble and Crustle proved crabs are bugs. The bug type is basically the arthropod type. Plus, Kabutops learns X, Scissor, and Leech Life, the latter by level up, and it used to get Fury Cutter. So could Genesect's ancient form have been a water bug type Kabutops? I think it's legit. We'll never get full confirmation, but like there's just so much going for it that I'm comfortable believing it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I was a fan of Kabutops. Great design. Right now, just Tina's drying up. Slowly. We're doing another Chun-Li fan art. I think she'll be perfect for this trend. Yeah. I was working on Emma, but I kind of moved past that. I might come back to that one later on. Just kidding.
Next is another Gen 5 related theory. Have you ever noticed how strong of a connection N and Zoroark have? They both have long, spiky ponytails, and N can understand Pokemon, something normally only Pokemon can do. But more significantly, a Zoroark appears at times when you would expect N to. In Black 2 and White 2, players can use the Memory Link feature to connect a save file of black or white.
All I know
This
about
unlocks
N
several
is the
features in the
famous
sequel
card
games, the
and
most
PP
significant
up.
of which are
Which is very
flashbacks. These stories are normally
memeable.
all told by characters present for the events, but one flashback story is initiated by a Zoroark that does not appear in the flashback. Only 2 grunts and N do. Additionally, when delving into the ruins of Team Plasma's castle, a Zoroark guides you down into it, only for you to find N instead. Zoroark's whole thing is making illusions, and not just of Pokemon. It can absolutely disguise itself as a person. What if that's what's happening here? What if N isn't a person?
Pokemon
What
Go.
if N
For
is a
Halloween,
Zoroark?
they
Some
had
might
a
say
bunch
that
of those
Zoroark's inability to
Zoroarks.
speak could ruin this, but I don't actually think
Thanks for
that's
likes,
true.
right?
In
1K
Lost
likes.
Lorn Forest
Appreciate
in the sequel games, you have a full conversation with a guy who ends up revealing himself to be a Zoroark. As for my thoughts, I'm giving it a weak maybe. I'll admit, it's weird. They're laying it on thick with this connection. It could be a very elaborate ruse, but I actually think there's a more likely explanation. The Zoroark is N's friend. In Black and White's opening credits, we see N as a child alongside a Darmanitan, Woobat, and a Zorua. N rotates out the Pokemon he uses constantly, releasing Pokemon once they've helped him once, but maybe this particular Zorua, then Zoroark, formed quite an attachment to him, and thus has stuck around to help him out for longer than most. It participates in the climactic battle in Black and White, but then does its own thing, popping in to help out N when it sees fit. Maybe the backpacker in Lost Lorn Forest is that exact same Zoroark. We'll never know for sure, but it is super weird how often we see Zoroark near N, despite the fact he only uses it in battle once. This next theory is a sad one. Cubone is a tragic Pokemon, morbidly wearing the skull of its dead mother. But strangely, Cubone seems to have a significant connection to a seemingly unrelated Pokemon aside from the fact that it's quite motherly. Kangaskhan. Cubone and Kangaskhan are often found in the same place. In the Johto games and Let's Go, they're both in Rock Tunnel. In X and Y, they're both in Glittering Cave, and on the Isle of Armor, they're both in Warm-Up Tunnel. In Wayla Volcano Park, not only are they both there, but Cubone can SOS call a Kangaskhan to help it in battle. Now, Cubone doesn't really look much like Kangaskhan, at least not the mother. But look at the baby. This art here, the best official look we have at what Cubone looks like under the skull, does bear a resemblance to baby Kangaskhan. Additionally, you can never encounter a baby Kangaskhan separate from its mother. That's because the mother is extremely protective. But what if she dies? Does the baby die too? Or does it adapt? Forced to carry on alone, it takes its mother's skull, changes typing and species, and ends up evolving into a totally different Pokemon when its mother's skull fuses to its head. Maybe Cubone is an orphaned baby Kangaskhan. This seems pretty legit, but like Cubone's mother, I gotta punch some holes in it. I'm sorry, that was way too dark. There is a huge problem with Cubone being a baby Kangaskhan. We've already met Cubone's mother, and it is not a Kangaskhan. The Pokemon Tower has wild Cubone, and the ghost that you have to defeat to progress the story is a Marowak. Doesn't have a gender since no Pokemon did in Gen 1, but in Gen 3, the Marowak is explicitly female. It's clearly intended to be the slain mother of a Cubone that lives in the tower. Then in Let's Go, the cutscene makes it even more explicit that the Cubone your rival ends up adopting is the child of this dead Marowak. There's a tearful goodbye and everything. Then Pokemon Origins even shows the mother Marowak defending Cubone from Team Rocket before dying. Although the Cumon is already wearing the skull in this scene. Also, if you hatch a baby Cumon, it already is wearing the skull. Just like a baby Kangaskhan hatching with the baby already in the pouch. These Pokemon, frankly, have never made sense. As for why Cumon and Kangaskhan are so often found in the same place, I think it's simply Kangaskhan's maternal instincts. In Waifu Volcano Park, Kangaskhan hears a motherless Cubone literally crying for its mom, and it shows up to protect the baby. This theory is fun, but it's nonsense. Without question, Cubone's mothers are Marowaks, and they always have been.
Okay, Wyatt, today's the grand opening of Spin Cyclone Car Wash. And we're giving away free ice cream.
I don't like that.
What could possibly go wrong? Oh, look, my first customer. Enjoy your car wash, Kayla.
Don't mind if I do.
Hey, wait a second. Why are there bubbles in the ice cream cones? Oh no! If there's soap in the ice cream cart, that would mean there's
Ice cream in the car wash? Today's adventure's called Sunday Fun Day.
Uh-oh! I switched the soap supply with the ice cream supply.
That's crazy.
Strawberry.
Oh, this can't get any worse.
As mayor, I have to keep up appearances, which means a sparkling clean car. You know, I heard there's a new car wash in town. I'd love to give it a spin.
The mayor's on her way? I guess it really can get worse.
It's time for the final theory of the video. The one I believe to be the most legit famous theory. And its story starts in Johto. 150 years before the events of the Johto games, lightning struck the brass tower, igniting it. This caused Lugia to flee to the Whirl Islands, while Ho-Oh took off from the nearby Bell Tower. While no humans died during the catastrophe, 3 Pokemon tragically died in the blaze. The fire was soon put out by a sudden rainstorm, and Ho-Oh returned briefly to accomplish one task, reviving the fallen Pokemon as Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, representing the lightning strike, the fire itself, and the rain after. But what were the Pokemon that died?
Yeah.
They weren't legendary before they died, so they had to just be regular old Pokemon. This all happened in Ecruteak City, so maybe they were Pokemon that were popular there, used by, I don't know, famous dancers, wearing kimonos. Raikou, Entei, and Suicune were Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. This works super well because of how much the evolutions have in common with their legendary counterparts. Obviously, the types already match, but it goes even deeper. All the beasts are cat-like, as are the evolutions. Jolteon and Raikou are both yellow with white manes. Flareon has a yellowish tuft on its forehead, and Entei has a yellow crest in the same place. Flareon also has the poofiest fur, and Entei is definitely the hairiest of the 3. Vaporeon has 3 fins on its head, and Suicune's crest has 3 points. And it's not just appearances. Jolteon and Raikou have very similar stat spreads, and both give 2 speed EVs. Flareon and Entei both have attack as one of their best stats, both giving 2 attack EVs. Vaporeon and Suicune don't match up as nicely, but both of them provide EVs only in bulk-related stats. Also, what's super crazy is the abilities. Jolteon's, Flareon's, and Vaporeon's regular abilities are Volt Absorb, Flash Fire, and Water Absorb. While the beasts all have pressure, their hidden abilities are Volt Absorb, Flash Fire, and Water Absorb. In Gens 5 and 6 only. They were never made available legitimately with those abilities. Which proves this theory is real! They're covering it up! It's a conspiracy, and I've uncovered it! The beasts were evolutions, and nothing will convince me otherwise!
Sure about that, bud?
Go away! You're making things weird. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video on the 21 most annoying Pokemon to evolve. If you haven't played Pokemon in a while, you are in for it when you see how infuriating some of these newer methods can be.
Yeah.
This ends today.
Congressman Barnes, wow. You know, I never really thought you'd have a promising political
Welcome to the stream,
career,
everybody.
but
Thanks for
less
joining.
than half a term. Yikes.
We're working on
We're taking you in, Val.
cleaning up this drawing.
I don't think so.
We're
Junior
doing
varsity,
Chun-Li in that
Captain
trend
America.
I see on Instagram.
Walker.
But drawing the characters in their stuff.
Oh, nice to see you, Ava.
Oh, thank you for the roasts. Appreciate that.
Elena,
Thank you so much.
you look
Appreciate it.
awful.
You sure you're really ready for that
awesome.
public-facing role you asked me about?
It's
Try to
shit,
see the name.
Valentina. Where's Bob?
Look at
Why?
you. You are all
Thank
so
you, FF.
adorable.
Appreciate
Just
that.
think, I send you down there to kill each other, and instead, you make nice and you form a team.
Yeah, we're just
Who's
fixing
this
up,
old
clean up this
Santa?
drawing. And the
I'm
poses
Alexei
better.
Shostakov. The Red Guardian.
What?
We're gonna work on the face and the body. Then clean it up a little bit. And we'll go from there. We're getting there. I wanted the shoulder just a little bit smaller. I'm gonna reposition the head. That body's really elongated. And you look at the human anatomy.
Pokemon battle mechanics are complicated, but they're generally not ridiculous. Today, for this video, I've compiled a list of 12 ridiculous, unfair, and insane Pokemon battle mechanics that are no longer in the games. So we can look back on them with a nostalgic, whoa, what? Yikes! They're in no particular order, except I've saved the most ridiculous for last because it just fully broke everything. Many of these will be from Gen 1, but I'd like to start with a mechanic that persisted long past that. Explosion and self-destruct are infamous moves that instantly knock out the user, but do huge damage in exchange. Self-destruct's power is 200, and Explosion is just an upgrade with 250 power. This makes Explosion the strongest move in the game outside Infinity Power Oko moves. Then Self-Destruct isn't far behind, only surpassed by a couple Z moves. Clearly, very strong moves, but they used to be far stronger. Because up until Generation 5, when calculating damage, these moves halved the target's defense. What? Why? In Gen 1, Self-Destruct was only 130 power and Explosion was only 170, but because of this defense halving, their effective powers were actually 260 and 340. But when they were buffed to their current powers in Gen 2, the defense halving effect remained, making them effectively 400 and 500 power. It's absolutely unhinged. Very few Pokemon could survive that. My best guess for why they did this is that they felt like, oh, nothing should survive, you know, a bomb, which I don't agree with, since I don't think any move should be this strong without a ton of setup or a very large chance to fail. But even if we're cool with the power, why not just make the displayed power of the moves 400 and 500? Why have this deceptive hidden mechanic that tricks people into thinking the moves are weaker than they are? It's not an issue anymore since, like I said, they fixed this in Gen 5, but when playing the games before that, just be wary of the bomb moves. Or load up on revives and exploit them. Another famous powerful normal type move is Hyper Beam. It's 150 power, but in exchange, the user must recharge and do nothing the next turn. Or do they? In Gen 1, a Pokemon could avoid the Hyper Beam recharge turn through a variety of ways, but most of them involved the Pokemon still not moving anyways. However, there were some ways the Pokemon could use Hyper Beam, then immediately move again. If Hyper Beam KO'd the enemy Pokemon or broke the enemy substitute, the user would not have to recharge. This is broken. This is the third strongest move in the Gen 1 games, ignoring the Oko moves, and many Pokemon learn it and thus get stabbed from it, boosting it to 225 power. Plus, since Gen 1 only had one fully evolved Ghost types and no Steel types, only Rock types resisted it. You could realistically win a battle by using Hyper Beam 6 turns in a row with no drawbacks.
Yeah, so I remember I used to play Pokemon, like in Emerald and stuff like that. I remember like Hyper Beam being way powerful. Now when I use it, it's like not that strong. It's like I used to like win the Elite Four or whatever it was back then in Emerald.
Pair that with the next mechanic, and you have some of the most overpowered Pokemon of all time. And that is thanks to critical hits. Today, a critical hit makes the move do 50% more damage and ignore defense boosts of the target and attack drops of the user, outside the burn attack drop. The base chance is 1 in 24 now, but before Gen 6, it was 1 in 16. Also in Gens 2 through 5, the damage was higher, 2 times instead of 1.5 times. None of this applies in Gen 1. Mostly. First, the damage wasn't double, it doubled the user's level for calculating damage. Due to math I don't really think is necessary to get into, generally the higher level Pokemon, the more the damage multiplier. It ranges from about 1.5 times to 1.95 times.
Crazy.
Also, all stat changes for both the user and the target are ignored, even the user's attack boosts. So it was technically possible for a critical hit to do less damage than a regular hit, if the attacker has had their attacks boosted or if the target has had their defenses lowered. But I don't care about the damage right now. I care about the chance, which instead of being uniform across all Pokemon, depended on the base speed of the attacker. The math is a little tricky, but in the end, the slowest fully evolved Pokemon like Snorlax or Slowbro would only crit 5.86% of the time, which I should add is still a higher chance than today. Today's chance is only about 4.17%. But then the fastest Pokemon in the game, Electrode, crits 27.34% of the time. Over a quarter of its attacks were crits. But what Hyper Beam paired best with were the Pokemon that were not quite as fast as Electrode, but still very fast, and got the stab boost from the move. That being Persian and Tauros. Both crit around 21 to 22% of the time, and with Hyper Beam being a physical move they get stabbed from, you can critical hit, no recharge Hyper Beam your way to an easy victory. An unfair one.
That's crazy.
But a smooth one. Let's shift gears from attack-focused entries and talk about status conditions. Today, 5 types have straightforward status condition immunities. Poison and Steel-type Pokemon cannot be poisoned, Fire-type Pokemon cannot be burned, Ice-type Pokemon cannot be frozen, and Electric-type Pokemon cannot be paralyzed. The only exceptions to this are when that Pokemon's type changes, or if the Poison or Steel type is poisoned by a Pokemon with the ability Corrosion. In the past, there were some small exceptions to this. In Gen 2 only, Tri-Attack could burn Fire types and freeze Ice types. Also in Gen 2 only, Twin Needle, a Bug-type move, could poison Steel types, because it could actually damage them, unlike Poison-type attacks. However, this entry is about a huge exception. Until Generation 6, Electric-type Pokemon were not immune to paralysis. In fact, they were only immune to it from damage-dealing Electric-type moves. Sounds specific, right? It is. This only protected Electric types from paralysis from moves like Thunderbolt, where they damage with a chance to paralyze. If the move is damaging but not Electric type, like Lick or Body Slam, paralysis could happen. If the move is Electric type but not damaging, like Thunder Wave, paralysis could happen. If the move is neither Electric type nor damaging, like Stun Spore or Glare, paralysis could happen. And if it's not a move at all, like the abilities Static, Affect, Spore, or Synchronize, paralysis could happen. And you want to know the meanest part? This only applied in Gen 1. From Gens 2 through 5, Electric type Pokemon can be paralyzed through any method. They had one measly, super specific immunity, and they didn't even get to keep that. And what's so insane to me is that they did this despite doing something completely different for Fire with Burn and Ice with Freeze. Ice, Electric, Fire is an established trio. Freeze, Paralysis, Burn. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres. Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Flamethrower, which are identical moves except for type and status caused. Tri-Attack is famously these 3 types together. And in Gen 3, Fire and Ice became immune to their statuses from that specific move, yet you could still paralyze an Electric type with Tri-Attack until Gen 6! I will never understand why it took them so long to put Electric on the same playing field as Fire and Ice. It's really weird that it took them so many generations. Also, one more paralysis fact that I didn't think warranted a full entry, but I wanted to mention. In Gen 1, normal type Pokemon were immune to paralysis from Body Slam, which meant in Gen 1, you could paralyze an Electric type with Body Slam, but not a normal type. This next status-related weird mechanic was thankfully killed after Gen 1, and it had to do with freeze. Freeze is infamous for having no predefined endpoint like sleep does, despite also preventing the Pokemon from moving. The frozen Pokemon simply has a 20% chance to thaw every time it moves, including the same turn it was frozen if it moves second, so you can thaw instantly. This thaw chance was only 10% in Gen 2, and in Gen 1 it was 0. I'm not kidding. In Gen 1, if your Pokemon was frozen, it would be frozen for the rest of the battle unless one of 3 things happened. Number 1, you use an item that cures it, like a full restore. Number 2, the frozen Pokemon uses rest, replacing its freeze with sleep. And number 3, the Pokemon is struck by a fire-type move that can burn, which in Gen 1 was all of them but Fire Spin. Since then, thawing has expanded to include being hit by any damaging fire-type move, plus the burning moves that are not fire-type. Additionally, a frozen Pokemon can thaw itself by using those 4 moves, plus this specific list of fire-type moves. But that's it. I do not know why it is only those specific fire moves and not just like all of the damaging ones. Like, what's the difference between being hit by Flamethrower and using it?
Alright, I'm gonna end the stream here. I'm gonna come back on the next stream and it's gonna be all finished and cleaned up. Yeah, we're just fixing up the post a little bit and correcting some things, but we'll do some things on the next stream and we'll get there. Yeah, thanks for watching. Like we see, feel free to like and follow. Links are in the bio. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Tumblr, Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon for more exclusive stuff. Like we see, feel free to like and follow. I'll see you guys on the next stream. Bye.